So we're in Return of the King. 2 days left. And notice how much shorter this is actually Return of the King. That's all appendices.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you don't have to read that. I encourage you to, if you want to be a true Tolkien nerd. But this is what you need to read for, this is what we'll talk about today, and this is what we'll talk about Tuesday. Because we're actually going to skip a few pages. So I want to pick up on page 753. Gandalf and Pippin arrive in Minas Tirith, and they're making their way to Denethor's throne room. Okay? And the bottom of 753, Gandalf tells him, "Be careful of your words, Master Peregrine. This is no time for hobbit pertness. In other words, don't be the fool you were back in Moria and, other places. Theoden is a kindly old man. Denethor is of another sort. Proud and subtle, a man of far greater lineage and power, though he is not called a king. But he will speak most to you and question you much, since you can tell him of his son Boromir. He loved him greatly. Too much, perhaps. How can you love somebody too much? How can a parent love a child too much?"
He doesn't remember.
Okay. Say that again?
Vernon Dudley.
Okay.
When you forget the other child.
When you forget or slight the other child, when you put all your hope into a child, doesn't matter which one, perhaps too much, and the more so because they were unlike. Because they were unlike. That is, Denethor and Boromir were unlike. But under cover of this love, he'll think it easier to learn what he wishes from you. Don't tell him more than what you need. Don't tell him anything about Frodo. Oh, don't mention Aragorn. Why not? Notice, don't tell him of Aragorn unless you must. Why not? What is wrong with Strider? Why does he call him Strider and not Aragorn?
Get it.
It's it. He doesn't get it. Aragorn is what? The name. Future king if everything goes well. Strider?
It's Ranger.
No
Friend.
Ranger of the North. A bum. That's what he looks like. Looks like a homeless guy. A nice homeless guy, handy to have when Dark Riders are around, but, I mean, he'll be coming here, won't he? He'll be arriving soon himself. Well, maybe. But if he comes, it might be in some way no one expects. How's Pippin expecting Aragorn to come? Kind of kingly-like? What does Gandalf say? Probably going to come in disguise. So, they stop before they get to this big door of polished metal. And I kind of imagine Gandalf takes him by the shoulders, looks down at him, pretty good distance, It says, "There is no time to instruct you now in the history of Gondor, though it might have been better if you'd learned something of it when you were still birds nesting and playing truant in the woods of the Shire. Do as I bid. It is scarcely wise when bringing the news of the death of his heir to a mighty lord to speak over much of the coming of one who will, if he comes, claim the kingship." You get all that? Pippin, you got all that? Aragorn, kingship, Boromir, dead. Kingship? Amazed. Yes, if you have walked all these days with closed ears and mind asleep, wake up now. Why is Pippin like this? Okay, that's one possibility. Why else? It's more basic than that. How old is he? How old?
He's in his 30s.
Nope, not in his 30s.
He's in his 20s.
He's in his tweens. Probably not what we think of as teens. Those are his 20s. He's not yet come of age. It'd be like teens. Coming of age is 33. So he's 28, 29, which would be probably like 15, 16, 17. Okay. This is one of the reasons why Elrond said, I don't really want Pippin going along. Okay. So, his eyes have just kind of been open to the bigger political realities of the world. Okay? So they come in, they sit down and speak with Denethor, page 755, and Denethor shows them Boromir's horn. Right in the middle of the page, Pippin. That's the horn Boromir always wore. He says, yes, it is. And I wore it before me. And the fact that you've seen it before tells me it. So he says, what say you to that? Pippin's going, let's see. Yeah, 13 days, that's right. 13 days. I stood beside him as he blew the horn. But no help came. Only more orcs. You were there? Tell me. So, how'd he die? How did you, midget, escape? And yet he did not, so mighty a man as he was, and only orcs to withstand him. Mightiest man may be slain by one arrow, and Boromir was pierced by many. When last I saw him, he sank beside a tree, plucked a black... Okay. Now he's speaking like somebody maybe a little bit older than his age. In other words, Gandalf, kind of awakened some sense in him. And then what does Pippin do? As Ron would say to Harry, bit much, mate. Goes a little bit overboard. Little service, no doubt, will so great a lord of men think to find in a hobbit, a halfling from the northern shire. Yet such as it is, I will offer it in payment of my debt. What debt does he owe to Denethor? But Boromir's dead and he's alive. Boromir died so Pippin would live, is what's going through Pippin's mind. Okay? Were the orcs ever going to kill any hobbits? Okay? And he pulls out his sword and he puts it at Denethor's feet. This is a sign of homage, fealty. He's saying, take my sword. Okay, it's a knife. Shut up. What? A pale smile like a gleam of cold sun on a winter's evening passed over his face. And he says, what's this? This is a blade wrought by our own kindred. And Pippin says where it came from. He says, I see there are strange tales woven about you. He says, okay, swear. Gandalf's like, take the hilt. If you're sure. I am. So Pippin swears fealty to Gondor and to the Lord and Steward of the realm. It's not just to the steward. It's to the king. Because the king is the Lord. So Denethor dies, let's say, and Pippin lives. Pippin is then in service to the next steward, or the Lord, should the Lord return. So that towards the end of the novel, when the fellowship breaks again, so to speak, Aragorn's already king and such, and he marches kind of to the northern part of the kingdom. He tells Pippin, don't forget, you're a liege man of Gondor. If I call, you come. Okay? So, he swears. So now he's under direct obedience to Denethor. And Denethor says, here's my command. Speak, and don't be silent. Tell me your full tale, and see that you recall all that you can of Boromir. Now, okay, he's just sworn allegiance, and what's one of the first things he does? He breaks that oath, because he doesn't tell him everything. He doesn't tell the full tale. Why not? Because before going in, Gandalf said what? Ixnay and Aragorn A and Odo Frey. Just don't say anything about them. So he doesn't. He's kind of obeying Gandalf like he's, I hate to even go there, listening to a higher power, which of course Gandalf is. Okay? So, Denethor orders food and wine to be brought. And there's a little bit of talk, and Gandalf says, maybe we can speak. Denethor says, maybe we can speak again at the end of the day. That is, after I'm done with him. Gandalf, earlier it's to be hoped. In other words, let's not wait till the end of the day. Is it not to you that Theoden has fought a great battle, that Isengard is overthrown, that I have broken the staff of Saruman? Okay, those are three pretty big things. Big battle, Isengard's overthrown, Saruman's no longer a wizard. It is much to me, but I know already sufficient of these deeds for my own counsel against the Minister of the East. How does he know that? Gandalf's got to be wondering. How does he know that I've thrown out Saruman? Because I haven't told anybody. In Pippin, notice, we get a paragraph, a fairly long paragraph, of Pippin's perspective, what Pippin sees. Denethor looked indeed much more like a great wizard than Gandalf did, more kingly, beautiful, more powerful, and older. Yet by sense other than sight, Pippin perceived Gandalf had the greater power, the deeper wisdom, and the majesty that was veiled. And he was older. Far, how much older? And then he thinks, what is Gandalf? Kind of like Frodo, asking Tom Bombadil, what are you? In what far time and place did he come into the world, and when would he leave it? And then he just stops thinking about it. Yeah, kind of like, well, there's an interesting thought. Oh, look. Blueberries. So, they have a long talk, and Denethor says, top of 758, let your wrath and an old man's folly run off, and then return to my comfort. Gandalf, folly? No. When you are a dotard, you will die. You can use even your grief as a cloak. In other words, I see through you. Do you think I do not understand your purpose in questioning for an hour one who knows the least while I stand by? Well, Pippin, that probably went right over his head. But he just really dissed Pippin. He doesn't know squat while I'm standing by. If you understand, be content. In other words, well, if you know why I did this, then just calm down. Pride would be folly that disdained help and counsel at need. Notice, he's admitting he has pride, but he says pride would be foolishness that turned down help and advice when it's needed. But you deal out such gifts, help and counsel, according to your own designs. You only give help and counsel what, Gandalf? When it suits you. Or let's rephrase this. You only give out help and counsel, Dumbledore, when it fits your grand plan of fattening Harry up for the final sacrifice. It's kind of what's going on here. Yet the Lord of Gondor is not to be made the tool of other men's purposes. In other words, he will what? Denethor. I am the captain of my fate, the master of my destiny. Nobody uses me for something. And to him, the Lord of Gondor, there is no purpose higher in the world as it now stands than the good of Gondor. And the rule of Gondor is mine and no other man's, unless the king should come again. Now he said two really important things there. One, the purpose, the whole intent, for the Lord of Gondor. There's no greater purpose or intent than the good of Gondor. In other words, what about Rowan? Doesn't matter. Rivendell, doesn't matter. Lothlorien, doesn't matter. Gondor is everything. It's Gondor or nothing. Okay? It's first really important point. Second point, Gondor's mine. Mine. Unless the king should come again. Why does he say unless the king should come again?
It's kind of his duty.
Because he's not the king. It's a pro forma statement. Okay? It's required as part of the job. Gandalf, unless the king should come again? How long's it been since there's been a king? Thousands of years. It's like 3,000 years if I remember right. Okay? I'd have to go back and look at the appendix. Well, my Lord Steward, notice, he doesn't say, well, my Lord. My Lord Steward. Why does he throw that word back in?
Because he's not the king.
Because you're a placeholder. You're keeping the seat warm. So that when the king returns, his butt doesn't get cold sitting on a cold throne. It is your task to keep some kingdom still against that event, which few now look to see. What's that event? The return of the king, which few now do look to see. Few people now expect the king to return. Why? Because it's been so long. In that task, preserving some of the kingdom, you shall have all the aid that you are pleased to ask for. You want help from me, Gandalf the White? Just ask. But I'll say this. The rule of no realm is mine. Neither Gondor or any other, great or small. Okay? What did he tell Pippin when Pippin said, assume Sauron loses. What are you going to do with Saruman? Nothing, Gandalf says. I don't want any mastery. So here he says, I don't have any mastery. Okay? But all worthy things that are in peril as the world now stands, those are my care. So what are all worthy things that now stand in peril? Men, women, hobbits, dwarves, elves, trees, flowers, rocks, birds, streams. In other words, all of Middle Earth. Except for maybe Mordor. And orcs. Okay? He says, all worthy things are what? Those are my care. You're steward of Gondor. I'm steward of all Middle Earth. It's kind of saying, don't be talking to me about your puny little... So, and for my part, I shall not wholly fail of my task. Sorry, I shouldn't have touched it.
No, it's fine.
Of my task, though Gondor should perish. If anything passes through the night, that can still grow fair or bear fruit and flower again in days to come. So let's, there's Gondor. This is all Middle Earth. If that's a single flower, Gandalf says, if all that goes to hell and this flower lives, I did my job. Exactly. I'm a success. For I also am a steward. Did you not know? He's kind of just, 1,000 upping him here. You're a steward of a little tiny plot of land. Everything's in my care. And with that, he turns and strides from the hall, with Pippin running to catch up. Now, that's a pretty good final statement. I mean, he's got panache. He understands, how rhetoric and such works. So they leave, and Pippin says, are you angry at me? Did the best I could. He said, no, you did fine. So, Pippin gets left with Baragond, mentions Aragorn. Who's he? Oh, he's nothing, nobody. Forget I mentioned the name, Aragorn. So, Pippin's with Baragond. He gets the livery of the White Tower, clothing, the armor and such. I was going to say costume, but it's not really costume. But Baragon doesn't want to waste his day with him, so he sends him off to his son, Beargill, etc. And dark starts coming from Mordor. Chapter 2, Passing of the Grey Company. Meanwhile, back with Aeglus Laragorn. He's now become Larry. Almost did it again, too. Legolas, Aragorn, Gimli, Merry. Okay. Aragorn's talking about taking the paths of the dead. Riders of the North show up. And page 775. Elro here says, I bring word to you from my father, the days are short. If you're in haste, remember the paths of the dead. Aragorn's like, the days are going to be really short before I take that path. He goes, oh yeah, it's something else. I bring you something from the Lady of Rivendell. And she also has words. Okay, so Elro here, son of Elrond, says, the days are short. Aragorn's like, they're not that short. Arwen says, the days are short. Either our hope cometh or all hopes end. Our hope, the hour is both specific, hers and Aragorn's, and general, the whole world's. That hope comes, or all hopes end. So I send thee what I made for thee. He says, okay, never mind. I know what you have there. Just keep it furled. What is it?
Sort of necklace-y thing.
Nope.
No.
It's one of the rings of power.
Nope.
The more the sword.
Nope. It's a banner. A banner that will be raised up a mast. And the banner is the white tree and the stars. It's the emblem of the king. Okay? And that's why he says, keep it hidden. I'll show it off when it's time. So, Merry does what Pippin did. He swears allegiance to Theoden, page 777. And Merry says, as a father you shall be to me. Theoden, yeah, for a little while. Yeah, but when you swear allegiance to somebody, it doesn't mean dad. It means, yes, master. Yes, Lord, I will do whatever it is you command. Okay? So, Aragorn tells Theoden and Éomer and et al. That he's going to take the paths of the dead. I'm so ready for this class to be done, for that class to be done. And Theoden says, why do you speak of them? Éomer, well, I thought we were going to ride to war together, but if you're going through Hell's Gate, I'm going the other way, buddy. Okay. Aragorn says, I can go that way. Won't be a problem. And then on 780, he tells Legolas and Gimli what he's done. He looked in the Palantir. Gimli, you did what? Gandalf said not to. You forget to whom you speak, he says. So, it was a bitter struggle. The weariness is slow to pass. This is 780 in the middle. I spoke no word to him. In the end, I wrenched the stone to my own will. In other words, when you look into a Palantir, it's not like this thing. It doesn't just show you everything. It's not CNN headline news or MEN, MEHN, Middle Earth headline news. Okay? It does what? It shows you what the most powerful person using the Palantir wants you to see. Aragorn says, I looked in it. Sauron tried to make me see something, and I wrenched it to my own will. So, he says, that alone he will find hard to endure. In other words, somebody beat me. And he beheld me. Notice, why not, and he saw me? Why beheld instead of saw?
Kingly glory.
Exactly. It's archaic. It implies kind of noble language, and he he saw. He beheld me. How? Yes, Master Gimli, he saw me, but in other guise than you see me here. If that will aid him, then I've done ill, but I don't think so. To know that I lived and walked the earth was a blow to his heart, for he knew it not till now. So what does Sauron now know? It's not that Aragorn is living. It's not that the king will come. It's a descendant of Isildur and Elendil, who cut the finger off, is alive. And what else did he do? Recognize this. Okay. But Sauron has not forgotten Isildur and the sword of Elendil. Now, in the very hour of his great designs, the heir of Isildur and the sword are revealed, for I showed him the blade that was broken. He is not so mighty yet that he's above fear. So why does he say he does this? To get him to lash out. To get him to strike first. Why? Because he's a glutton for pain?
It's a rash decision.
It'll be a rash decision. He'll strike before he has the moves, the pieces, set up on the chessboard. Okay? So, page 783, he has an interview, for lack of a better phrase, with Éowyn. Who's Éowyn again? Niece. Niece of Theoden, sister of Eomer. Okay? And he tells her, tomorrow I ride by the paths of the dead, page 783. Oh, okay, so you seek death. Is it your errand to seek death? That's what you're going to find. He says, no, they'll suffer me to pass. She says, this is madness. This is crazy. He says, no, not for me. I go on a path appointed. We've heard the language. How do we shape our path? When Frodo and Sam get to Cirith Ungol, Frodo says, so is our path laid. It's kind of like appointed. This is destiny. Okay? He says, but those who follow me go of their own free will. She's like, why? Why take this road? Because I must. Only so can I see any hope of doing my part in the war against Sauron. Okay? And then she says, okay, can I come too? What has happened before this? What has she agreed to Theoden? Theoden's going to march into war, ride into war, with Éomer and others. She will be in charge of what? All the women and children in, invalids? Yes, to some extent. And what else?
Everything else.
A company of soldiers will be left there. She'll be in charge. Okay? She agreed to that. This is what's important here. She agreed to that. Aragorn, your duties with your people, page 784. You and your men telling women of duty, Too often have I heard of duty. Am I not of the house of Eorl, a shield maiden and not a dry nurse? I have waited on faltering feet long enough. Waited on. That is, I have served faltering feet. Doddering old Theoden. That's what she's talking about. Since they falter no longer, why? He threw away his staff. He's getting ready to go kick you-know-what. May I not now spend my life as I will? What does she mean by spend?
Yeah, I know what she wants.
Okay. What do you do when you spend money?
Trade it.
You could say you trade it, but you lose it. You don't have it anymore. You might get something in return, but you might not if you spend it all on lottery tickets. Okay? She's talking, may I not now expend my life as I will. Few may do that with honor. Why? The important words, as I will, as I desire. Can't I do with myself what I want? Aragorn, few may do that with honor, honorably. But as for you, didn't you accept the charge to govern the people until their Lord's return? That is, you accepted this charge. She could have said what? No. If you had not been chosen, some marshal or captain would have been set in the same place. And he couldn't right away. You know, what if it were Aylmer and he found out I was doing this and he wanted to come? He wouldn't be able to go, well, I'm not going to wait here. I'm going to... No, he would have to follow his agreement. Shall I always be chosen? I'm always chosen to stay behind, she says. Shall I always be left behind when the riders depart? To do what? Notice what she says. To mind the house while they win renown and find food and beds when they return. What bothers her about this arrangement? What does she see herself solely as doing? Housework, caretaker. Huswife, housewife, essentially. And the men? Glory. They get to win renown. Okay. What do they have to do to win renown? Risk their lives. And then when they return, I do what? I find them food and beds. A time may come soon, Aragorn says, when none will return. Okay? Imagine for a moment you're in charge. The men go off and they don't return. She's still in charge. Then there will be need of valor without renown. Why? For none shall remember the deeds that are done in the last defense of your homes. What's he mean? Who tells the tales of renown, the tales of glory? The survivors. But if the men are all dead, meaning they lose the battle, and you're left here and you're protecting, are the people the men went off and fought just going to leave you alone? No, they're going to come. And so what will it then be incumbent upon her and that troop of warriors she has to do? Last stand. Die fighting. And there won't be anybody sitting off in the corner going, wow, look at that. Way to go in. Oh, I got to get that note down there. She'll die how? Alone. Forgotten. What's Aragorn's point? Partially at least. Which takes more honor? Which is worthy of more glory? Dying in this kind of battle where you might win and somebody might write a great poem about you, or dying in this kind of battle where no one's ever going to hear your name. Which one takes greater courage? This one takes a hell of a lot more courage, because you're dying for lost cause. But when the men have died in battle and honor, let me back up. He says, yet the deeds will not be less valiant because they are unpraised. And I think the way Tolkien wrote that is he means us to understand exactly the opposite. The deeds will be more valiant because they're less praised. She says, all your words are but to say, you're a woman, your part is in the house. And people say there's, no strong women in the Lord of the Rings. Thus we have to have Liv Tyler, warrior princess. I don't know, you put Anwin next to Galadriel, I wouldn't want to come up against either of them. Your part is in the house, but when the men have died in battle and honor, you have leave to be burned in the house. That's how she interprets Aragorn's words. Okay? In other words, because the men are all dead and they died honorably, we don't really care how you die. It's unimportant how you die. Why? Because the men won't need it anymore. Now, I don't know about you, and it could be because I'm a man, but that's twisted logic. That is really twisted way of thinking. But I am of the house of Errol, and not a serving woman. I can ride and wield blade. I don't fear pain or death. She said twice now, I'm not a serving woman. What does she mean?
She's not a housewife.
I'm royalty, man.
Not a handmaid.
Yeah. People should be serving me rather than me serving them. I don't fear pain. Well, what do you fear? It's kind of like Aragorn the counselor. Okay, Elrond. So tell me, what is it you fear? Why? Let's get to the heart of that matter. A cage. What kind of cage? To stay behind bars until use and old age accept them, and all chance of doing great deeds is gone. What's the cage? Marriage. She wants to do what? She wants to go out. How? Butch and Sundance, man. Buns are glazing.
And a blaze of gore.
Yeah. Or a glaze of bori. Guns are blazing. Okay? Blaze of glory. Yeah. Wow. So tired. And yet you counseled me, he says, not to adventure on the road that I had chosen. Well, she says, one may counsel each other that way. She goes, I don't want you to throw yourself away needlessly. I would not see a thing that is high and excellent cast away needlessly. Why? Because if you ride to battle, your sword may do what? May win two things, she says.
Renown and victory.
Renown and victory. Notice which one she puts first. What's more important to her than victory?
Remembered.
Glory. Aragorn. Yeah, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't see a thing that is high and excellent thrown away needlessly. So stay put. Now she could read that as what? He thinks I'm high and excellent. Which is what Peter Jackson, he infantilizes the whole thing.
He really man, she loves him.
Yeah, she's got it bad. So, the next day, she tries to go again. And they go through the paths of the dead, which, notice, it's what? A page in the book? Page and a half? I think in the film it's 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, what is it? Here, it's like a tunnel. It's like a cave. And they go through, and the dead follow them, and they come out, and Aragorn makes them swear an oath, and their oath is to fulfill their oath and have peace. Aragorn says, I will hold the oath fulfilled, etc., etc. What do they have to do? They go in front of Aragorn and the riders and scare the hell out of everybody. They make his enemies flee. Okay? Chapter 3, Muster of Rowan. Muster is they're getting the troops all in order. And who does Theoden say can't come? And why? Merry can't come. Why? Is it because he's a hobbit? Sorry, no midgets allowed. Not because he's not trained. He doesn't want him to die. Merry said, you shall be as a father to me. Yeah, for a little while. Theoden, pretty sure he's marching off to death. He doesn't want Merry to die. Okay? But Merry does go. 8:04. A rider comes up to Mary and says, "Where will wants not, a way opens, so we say." Mary's like, "Huh? You want to go with the Lord of the Mark?" "I do. Then go with me. I'll bear you with me under my cloak until we're quite a ways away." Mary says, "Thank you, thank you. I don't know your name." "Oh, you don't? Call me Durnhelm." Dern, D-E-R-N, comes from Old English, D-Y-R-N-E. It means hidden or secret. Helm just means protector. A helmet is a protector of the head. Okay? Notice, do we know who this is? In the movie, you know exactly who it is. Right there. Thus, you take away the suspense that comes later. So, we get the Siege of Gondor. Black Riders come. Faramir comes in. He has an interview with his father and with Gandalf. What does he tell his father and Gandalf when he sees a halfling? Saw a couple of those. Let's see, when was that? About 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Okay. And he says, page 812, because Gandalf says, where were they, Faramir? Where were they headed? Cirith Ungol. He's like, "No, tell me, somewhere else, please." "Why?" Okay. So he tells them when they would have reached there. Morning 2 days ago. Skipping a bit, go down to the bottom of 8:12. Denethor says, my fun, your father, my son, your father, is old but not yet dotard, like me. I can see, and here was my want, and little of what you have said, half said or left unsaid, is now hidden from me. Alas, alas, for Boromir. What has he done in listening to Faramir? He's connected the dots. What does he now know? This halfling had Isildur's bane. Okay? So, if what I've done, he says, displeases you, I wish I'd known what you wanted me to do before. Would that have availed to change your judgment? If, when I'd sent you down to Ithilien, if I had said, oh, and by the way, should you meet a couple of halflings, and one of them is carrying Isildur's bane, the ring, Sauron's ring, the ring of power, the great ring, bring it to me. Would you have changed? Would you have done it? He says no. Okay? Do you wish then that our places had been exchanged? Top of 813. Do you wish I was dead, Boromir alive? Yes! I wish that indeed. Why? Because Boromir loved me more? Because I loved Boromir more? He doesn't say that. Because Boromir was loyal to me and no wizard's pupil. He's saying, Faramir, your loyalty isn't to me and a.k.a. thus Gondor. Your loyalty is to Gandalf. Boromir would have brought me a mighty gift. Okay? So, Gandalf says, okay, so what then is your wisdom? What would you have done with this gift Boromir would have brought you? He says, well, I wouldn't have used the ring, if that's what you think. We would have hidden it. Okay? And he tells Gandalf, top of 8:14, if you do not trust me to endure the test, you do not know me yet. If you don't think I could endure this temptation to put on the ring or wield it, well, you don't know me. Gandalf, well, I don't trust you. Why not? Because Gandalf says, I don't trust myself in this thing. Who else didn't trust herself? Galadriel. Elrond didn't trust himself. Okay? No, stay your wrath. I do not trust myself in this, and I refuse this thing, even as a freely given gift. You can still govern yourself in some matters, Denethor, but if you had received this thing, it would have overthrown you. Okay? So, Faramir goes out, gets some rest. Gandalf and Pippin talk a little bit. The next day, Faramir goes back before his father. And Faramir says, if you want me to, bottom of 816, since you are robbed of Boromir, I will go and do what I can in his stead. If you command it, I do. Okay, then if I return, think better of me. Does he mean love me more, Dad, please? That depends on the manner of your return. What does Denethor mean? What's he suggesting? He's implying something there.
Don't come back unless you want.
Come back alive.
No, I don't think that's what he's implying.
Back with the ring.
No.
Come back dead.
If you don't come back, if you don't win.
I think he's implying don't come back a coward. In other words, there's only two ways to come back. Total victory or total death. Spartan wives supposedly said to their husbands before they went off to battle, come back with your shield or on it. With your shield, you can carry it, or it's your stretcher. So, Faramir turns, gets ready. Yeah, what the hell with you, buddy? And Gandalf stops him. Do not throw your life away rashly or in bitterness. It's not an accident. Tolkien puts this here right after the previous chapter. Because who there is thinking about throwing away her life in rashness or bitterness? Eowyn, your father loves you, Faramir, and will remember it ere the end. He's going to have kind of a weird, twisted way of showing it, but, fathers will do that. So, how does Faramir return? Kind of on his shield. Not dead, but mostly dead. Okay? The Nazgul come. We're going to skip a bunch again. Faramir is brought back, nearly dead. And Denethor takes Faramir and takes him up to the halls of the dead. Page 825. People come to Faramir, come to Denethor, and he says, the first circle of the city's building, Minas Tirith is a city built in circles, and each circle is higher than the previous one. It's got 7. He's in the 7th. Men are flying from the walls and leaving them unmanned. Denethor, why? Why do the fools fly? Better to burn sooner than late, for burn we must. Now what does he, if you take what he really means there seriously, what does he really mean? Go out to the battle. Why? Because we're all dead. We're all dead. I'm just sucking air still. Why? Flee from the battle. Okay? So, Pippin kind of takes his leave and says, okay, you go ahead and go on off to the funeral pyre. I'm going to go talk to Mr. Gandalf for a bit. Okay? So, Pippin finds Baragon to tell him. Baragon heads up, and we get page 829. So what's happening in Minas Tirith? It's burning. The gate that has never been breached for over 1,000 years is being rammed with a huge battering ram. Trolls swinging it. And the gate bursts. Okay. In rode the Lord of the Nazgul. A great black shape against the fires beyond he loomed up, grown to a vast menace of despair. In rode the Lord of the Nazgul. He already said that. So why does he say it again? It's kind of this boom, boom. It's like the ocean. You can't stop the ocean, right? It's inevitable that the tide will come in. This is giving us inevitability. Everybody flees but one. There's Gandalf sitting upon Shadowfax. And what does Gandalf do? Go back to the abyss prepared for you. It's kind of like Gandalf, found the rewind button and went all the way back to the bridge of Khazad-dûm. Because what did he say to the Balrog? Go back to the abyss. Okay? Balrog, at least, is a supernatural being. A Maya. That's what they are. Okay? This is a man. Fallen, etc. Go back to the abyss. You cannot come in here. Go back, fall into the nothingness that awaits you, and your master go. And the Black Rider says, old fool, this is my hour. Do you not know death when you see it? Die now and curse in vain. Die now and curse in vain? That is directly from the book of Job. There's one word mercy. One word missing. God. Die now and curse God in vain. Job's wife says that to Job after a bunch of bad stuff happens to Job. Okay? Gandalf doesn't move because at that very moment you hear two sounds. One in the city, one out by the fields. In the city, some stupid crow starts crowing, and it's echoed or answered by the horns of the Rohirrim. Why does Tolkien have a cock crow?
Like the sun coming up in the morning, like a light shining in the dark.
Okay.
I almost said to kill the basilisk. It almost came out.
Okay. I think it's more of what Paul's getting at. It's a new day. If there's a new day, where there's life, there's what? Hope. That's it. Where there's life, there's hope. Okay? So the Rohirrim come. They ride and ride and ride. They go through, they meet the wild men. We get the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Okay? We see Snowmane, Theoden's horse, overcome with fear because of the Nazgul, falls, lands on Theoden's leg, so he's pinned. And the Nazgul lands and is getting ready to eat them. And Durnhelm is there. And Merry's there too. And Merry's crying to himself, thinking, Kingsman, you must stay by him. But he doesn't. And we hear Durnhelm say, Begone, foul Dwemer Lord of Carrion, leave the dead in peace, page 841. And the voice says, Come not between the Nazgul and his prey, for he will not slay thee in thy turn, he will bear thee away to the houses of lamentation. You'll be left naked before the lidless eye, etc., etc. Whatever, because that's do what you will, it's whatever, but I will hinder it if I may. Hinder me, thou fool. No living man may hinder me. Oh, surprise. Not a man. That's why it's important that we don't know who Durnhelm is. Pulls off the helmet. I am Eowyn's daughter. You stand between me and my lord and my kin. Begone if you are not deathless. Okay, between me and my lord and my kin, that's because the riders of Rohan are essentially like Germanic warriors. They're Anglo-Saxon warriors. The language they speak is Anglo-Saxon. I mean, it's Rohanese, but it's Old English, really. Okay? The ancient Anglo-Saxons had kind of a code of honor that they lived by. It wasn't written down. It was kind of bred in them. Duty to your lord, duty to your kin, duty to avenge your lord or kin. She's saying, this is my lord, he's my kin, you kill him, I'm going to avenge. So what happens? The Dark Lord comes at her. She kills the flying thing that he flies on. Chops its head off. So the captain of the 9 gets pretty angry at her. Swings his mace, breaks her arm. Okay? So there she is. One good arm left. Okay? Because the other one's, hanging like this. She has her sword. Can she wield her sword with one arm? Not if this is like a medieval warrior sword, which would be 5 feet tall, weigh 40 or 50 pounds. Because how did you kill people with those? You beat them to death. Okay? So she has this, and she probably, like a lance, props it like this, like, all right, buddy. And he gets ready. He comes up with his sword. He's going to... And what happens? He stumbles forward. Mary's sword had stabbed him from behind, shearing through the black mantle, passing up beneath the hauberk. It pierced the sinew behind the mighty knee. Pierced the sinew. That implies there's actual meat and flesh there. It's not just empty clothing. If you've ever had severe knee pain, I've had like 5 surgeries, 6 surgeries on my knees. Hurts like hell, okay? He falls forward. She's got her sword, and he just kind of is impaled on it. How? Where does her sword strike him? Here? Here? Right through the neck. Why is it important what Mary does? Okay, he saves Eowyn. Why else is it important? Let me rephrase that. How is Mary able to do this? Is it because he's not a living man? Because he's Hobbit? It's one possibility. Why else? What's the sword he uses to strike the captain of the 9? And who is the captain of the 9? He is the very Witch King of Angmar that Tom Bombadil said when they were at the Barrows. He said these blades were forged long ago to fight this guy and his forces. And Mary has that sword. And he goes, and it's kind of like, the infection or whatever, starts going through. So, what happens when he dies? What happens to Sauron's forces in the Pelennor Fields? They don't all go like in the one Star Wars, you kill the ship and the droids all, but they do lose their will. They lose their desire to fight. Why? He's kind of like their animating intelligence, so they lose focus. Orcs aren't known for, being really good, regimented. I mean, they'll turn on each other and kill each other and eat each other. So, what happens to Mary as a result? Well, he's just struck something pretty evil, so he's now touched by it. Eowyn's wounded. Theoden's not dead yet. Mostly dead. And he says to Mary, page 843, live now in blessedness, and when you sit in peace with your pipe, think of me, because I'm not long for this world. And he dies. Okay? So Theoden is brought in honor to Minas Tirith. Eowyn is brought in honor to Minas Tirith. What about Mary? He's left. He has to walk in on his own. Okay? Why? They don't see him. He's so small. They don't pay any. Chapter 7, Pyre of Denethor. How much time? 15 minutes. So what happens at the Pyre of Denethor? I'm getting the feeling that some of you have not gotten this far, but that's okay. Denethor tries to kill Faramir, right? Why? Yeah, we're all going to burn, so might as well burn at my own hands. Gandalf says, not on my watch, grabs Faramir, and what is revealed? Why does he think everybody's going to burn anyways? Because every now and then people saw a funny light flickering up in the tower of Minas Tirith. And what was the funny light? It was a palantir. And what did Sauron let get the name, Denethor see? Denethor did not have the strength to make the palantir show him what he wanted to see. So what did he see? He saw what Sauron wanted him to see. We're not told literally what he saw, but what can we infer he saw? Minas Tirith in flames. What else? Sauron's army. We do get a picture of Sauron's army at one point, and it's what? It's Peter Jackson's CGI. It's row upon row upon row upon row. Hundreds of thousands of orcs and men just getting ready to stream out. It's like the Chinese army versus, the Guatemalan army. China, over 1 million active men. Okay? I mean, you got 1 billion people. You can do that.
And they have to.
Well, yeah. They don't have much choice at all in China. So, Faramir is rescued. How does Aragorn enter the city? Edward Elgar's pomp and circumstance, graduation music is playing and all that kind of stuff. Flags are waving, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of, I don't know, Isildur and Elendil? No. He comes in as Strider. He comes in as a Ranger of the North. Why does he come in? Because Faramir is at the Houses of Healing, and one of the old healers mentions an old adage, the hands of the king are the hands of a healer. And Gandalf's like, I can do that. Sends word, Aragorn comes in, they get the herbs, and he helps bring them back. Okay? Aragorn does not bring Éowyn back. He brings Faramir out, right? Cracks the Athelas, the king's foil, does the little, water stuff, bathes his brow, and Faramir says, my lord. Let's see here. 866. My lord, you called me, I come, what does the king command? Now, nobody said, Faramir, this is the king. Aragorn just says, Faramir, come back. What does the king command? Don't walk in the shadows. Be ready when I return. Who would lie idle when the king has returned? So what happens? The old lady goes, king. Did he just say king? She's sitting over there on Twitter. So everybody starts to hear. He goes to Éowyn. Why can't he bring Éowyn back? Why can he bring Faramir, but not Éowyn? He's never met Faramir. He's met Éowyn. So why the one and not the other? No.
Does she not want to come back?
No.
It would,
No.
by bringing back somebody he knows, it could be conceived as being selfish because you're wanting to bring somebody that you have a connection with. That
Could be. Not it. Faramir recognizes what? Just in Aragorn's voice. Kingship. It's an acknowledgement of kingship. That's what draws him. Why? Well, Faramir is now what?
Steward.
He's steward. His father's dead. He's steward. Steward serves the king. King calls, I have to come. What's Éowyn's relationship to Aragorn? She's no serving woman. What else? Well, let me put it this way. Take the Peter Jackson version. What relationship does Eowyn want to have with Aragorn? Bump off Arwen
Yeah.
and have that relationship. Aragorn's going to say, he tells Éomer, you have to bring her out. Why? Bottom of 866. Alas, she is pitted against the foe beyond the strength of her mind or body. Those who will take a weapon to such an enemy must be sterner than steel. She is a fair maiden, fairest lady of a house of queens. I know not how I should speak of her. When I first looked on her, perceived her in happiness, it seemed when I saw a white flower standing straight and proud, shapely as a lily, yet knew it was hard as if wrought out of steel. It was maybe a frost that had turned its sap, her blood, to ice. And so it stood bitter, and he goes, am I right, Éomer? He goes, hey man, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's not your fault. Okay? I hold you blameless, but I didn't know that my sister was touched by any frost until she first looked on you. Well, what had been happening, let's say, to Éowyn before Aragorn ever showed up? Because Aragorn doesn't show up until Gandalf shows up with him. What had been happening in Meduseld, in the hall? Declining, dark, what else? Wormtongue was putting ideas in the king's head, and what were some of Wormtongue's ideas? Bingo. You know. So, think you that Wormtongue had poison only for Theoden's ears? Gandalf says. Have you not heard these words? I do not doubt that Wormtongue at home wrapped their meaning in terms more cunning, my lord. If your sister's love for you and her still bent to her duty had not restrained her lips, you might have heard even such things as these escape them. In other words, Wormtongue was poisoning Éowyn's mind also. Not just Theoden's. So, Aragorn kissed her on the brow, calls her. She doesn't stir. She starts to breathe more deeply. He calls her again. Éomer calls her. And she wakes up. She finds out her father's, uncle's dead, etc., etc. He then goes to Merry. Merry asking for a pipe. Aragorn says, not right now, etc. And Aragorn goes back outside. We get to chapter The Last Debate. Okay? What's the last debate? What's the last thing they have to decide? Because that's what's meant there by debate. What do? They've won the war, right? No, they won a little skirmish. This is a little skirmish. For Gondor, it's big. For Sauron, lost a few thousand. So the last debate is, okay, now what do? What do they know about Frodo and Sam?
They're somewhere in Mordor.
They're either somewhere in Mordor or they're right on the border. Poor door.
Oh, so you did that on purpose.
I should just go home. Okay? Where, though? If here's the mountains you're facing, they're way down here. The Moran and the Black Gate's up here. Gondor's over here. Minas Tirith is over here. So what do they say we should do? You know, what can we do? Well, we can march down and help Frodo. That would be a good idea, because then what are you going to do? You're going to draw all Sauron's forces. So Gandalf says, here's what we need to do. We need to march to the Black Gate. And do what? Become what?
Distraction.
Bait. Distraction's a nice word. Bait's better. Because what happens with bait? Every time.
Gets eaten.
Yeah, it gets eaten. So, they have to do what with themselves? They sacrifice themselves so that Frodo can achieve the goal. Okay? Skipping a lot more than I normally skip. So they go to the Black Gate. And while they're going, people, Aragorn, king of the, And the mouth of Sauron comes out. Ambassador. And he has what with him? He's carrying things.
Oh, this Frodo stuff.
He's got
That's right.
an elven cloak. He's got the elven brooch.
He's got the,
And he's got Frodo's mithril coat. And Pippin's like, oh! Gandalf's like, shut up, Pippin. What did Pippin just do?
give it away.
We liked the person who had those. So Gandalf says, what are the terms? He gives them the terms. The terms are hard to swallow. And Gandalf says, no, we're not going to take those terms. And he does take the cloak, the mithril coat. And the Black Gate opens, and they just start swarming out like ants. Pippin's in the thick of it, 892. He'd bowed, crushed with horror, when he heard Gandalf reject the terms, doom Frodo the torment of the tower. And he hears himself saying, I wish Merry was here. Well, not at any rate here, but now I understand Denethor a little better. Notice, he sees what's going on, and he goes like, yeah, Denethor was right. we're dead. We might die together, Merry and I. Draws his sword, intertwining shapes of red and gold, flowing characters of Numenor, glinted like fire upon the blade. And as he thinks this, the first assault, the first wave from Mordor, crashes over them. And what happens? A troll falls on on Pippin. He stabs upward, the written blade of Westernessa pierced through the hide, went deep into the vitals, blood starts blushing out, blood starts gushing out, and he thinks, so it ends, as I guessed. And then he hears the words, the eagles are coming, and he's like, what the? That's Bilbo's story. That's how the Hobbit Battle of Five Armies occurs. He's like, well, that's not right. But it's ended now, and he passes out. Okay? Skipped a lot because I had to. So, Tuesday, what does Tolkien do? He takes us back to the Tower of Cirith Ungol and the choices of Master Samwise.